At his peak, MC Hammer was pulling in about $33 million a year. 5 years later, according to SF Gate, he had just $1 million in assets and more than $10 million in debt. By 1996, the man behind You Can't Touch This was in bankruptcy court. In the early 1990s, MC Hammer was everywhere. According to Thrillist, his 1990 album, Please Hammer, Don't Hurt 'Em, became the first hip-hop album to sell over 10 million copies. At his peak around 1991, that success translated into earnings upwards of $33 million a year. Thrillist notes that Hammer had signed with Capitol Records and rocketed to stardom and wealth off the back of that album. The parachute pants, the dance moves, the hooks. It all turned into stadium tours, endorsements, and massive checks. Some sources put his net worth as high as $70 million during these years, but even the more conservative figures show he was making superstar money incredibly fast. And just as fast as the cash came in, Hammer started spending like it would never stop. Hammer didn't just upgrade his lifestyle, he built a whole empire around it. Thrillist describes how he blew his $30+ million fortune on an epic list of expenses. One of the biggest line items was people. He reportedly kept a staff of 200 on payroll to handle, as Thrillist puts it, pretty much everything you can imagine. On top of that, he rolled with an entourage about 40 deep. According to Thrillist, that meant a staggering $500,000 per month just to support everybody. That's up to $6 million a year, just on payroll. Then there was the mansion. One article on his finances notes a 40,000 square foot property with a bowling alley, a 17-car garage, tennis courts, 2 swimming pools, and a recording studio. Other coverage of his spending adds details like a gold hot tub, a gold toilet, marble statues, and even a swimming pool shaped like his iconic parachute pants. This wasn't a modest upgrade. This was a custom universe built around being MC Hammer, and everything had a price tag. The house was just the beginning. Hammer turned his interests into high-cost hobbies. According to reporting on his finances, he became a huge fan of horse racing and built out his own operation, Oaktown Stable. This wasn't a casual side gig. The cost of Hammer's thoroughbreds was, in the article's words, astronomical. Each horse reportedly cost a minimum of $250,000, and many were closer to $1 million apiece. One of his horses, Dance Floor, cost about $1 million and placed third in the 1992 Kentucky Derby. Another, Light Light, won the Kentucky Oaks in 1991 and was estimated to be worth over $1 million. On top of the horses, there were supercars and luxury vehicles, more high-ticket toys that lose value the minute you drive them off the lot. The theme was consistent. Big checks going into assets that were expensive to maintain, hard to resell for full value, and totally dependent on his income staying sky-high. The entire machine, the mansion, the staff, the horses, the entourage, depended on one thing: Hammer staying at the very top of the charts. But music tastes changed. One explainer on his downfall notes that as gangster rap became more popular, fans were less interested in Hammer's more wholesome, pop-friendly hip-hop. He struggled to recreate his early success, and his record sales tumbled significantly. The article points out that he simply wasn't bringing in the money anymore. The problem? The expenses didn't tumble with the sales. According to Thrillist, by the mid-90s he had blown through his ample fortune. Another financial breakdown notes that by 1996, Hammer had more than $10 million in debt and only $1 million in assets, according to SF Gate. In other words, he was living like peak Hammer, on post-Hammer income. By April 1996, there was no more juggling. According to coverage of his case, Hammer filed for bankruptcy in California that month. In the filing, he reportedly listed more than 200 creditors, everyone from service providers to lenders. One article notes that even former NFL star Deion Sanders was on that list. Sanders had reportedly loaned Hammer $500,000 when the bankruptcy was filed. Hammer owed that money back, along with millions more. To satisfy creditors, he had to start selling off his world. His massive mansion, built at enormous expense, hit the market at $6.8 million after the filing. According to property coverage, it failed to sell at that price and eventually went for just $5.3 million, far less than what Hammer had reportedly poured into building and customizing it. That's the other side of luxury spending. The resale market doesn't care what you paid to make something unique. In a fire sale, buyers name the price. You might think bankruptcy was the end of the story. It wasn't. One explainer aimed at families notes that after the 1996 bankruptcy, things got worse. It explains bankruptcy as a legal process where you admit you can't pay your debts, the courts help clear or restructure them, and you're often forced to sell most of your valuables. But not everything goes away. According to that piece, in 2013, the IRS hit Hammer with a bill for about $800,000 for unpaid taxes dating back to 1996. Another report on his finances gets even more specific. In 2011, the IRS went after him for $758,113 in unpaid federal taxes between 1996 and 1997, while the state of California said he owed another $550,197 in back state taxes. On top of that, he reportedly owed Alameda County over $230,000. Bankruptcy had wiped out a lot, but not all. Years later, the tax man was still knocking. That's the part most people don't see in the highlight reel. Overspending doesn't just mean selling your toys. It can mean a long shadow of legal and tax problems that follow you for decades. After the collapse, Hammer had to become someone else. According to Thrillist, after his 1996 bankruptcy, he eventually rebranded himself as a minister, a role that helped pay the bills for a time. Later, the same article notes, he dipped his toe into the startup world, becoming a consultant for multiple tech companies. A separate profile on his turnaround says he is now seen as one of Silicon Valley's more respected tech investors, working with roughly 8 different tech companies in consulting and investment roles. So the story doesn't end with Hammer on the curb, permanently broke. It ends with someone who rebuilt a career, but from a very different foundation than gold toilets and a 200-person payroll. The money came back slowly. The lesson should have come back faster for the rest of us watching. It's easy to turn MC Hammer's story into a punchline about parachute pants. But underneath the headlines, there's a specific financial mistake that turned a $30+ million fortune into a 1996 bankruptcy filing. It wasn't just buying a mansion. Plenty of rich people buy houses. It wasn't just splurging on a few cars or even million-dollar horses. According to Thrillist and SF Gates numbers, the real killer was the mismatch between Hammer's income and his obligations. He built a lifestyle and a business structure, a 200-person staff, an entourage, a custom mansion, a racing stable that demanded millions of dollars every single year, whether his record sold or not. When the market shifted and fans moved toward other styles of rap, his income dropped sharply, but his costs stayed fixed. That gap turned into more than $10 million in debt and over 200 creditors by 1996. Hammer's story is not just don't buy a gold toilet, it's don't lock yourself into permanent expenses based on temporary income. Here's the core takeaway for you. Never build permanent obligations on temporary income. Hammer's music money was peak era, once-in-a-lifetime income. According to Thrillist, he spent it as if $33 million a year was normal and forever, hiring 200 staff, carrying a $500,000 monthly payroll, building a
mansion that couldn't be resold for what it cost, and taking on million-dollar horses and toys. When the music slowed, those bills didn't. If your money jumps, a promotion, a bonus, a business windfall, treat it like Hammer's record sales, possibly temporary. Before you upgrade your house, your car, or your personal entourage, lock in 3 things. 1, a conservative baseline lifestyle that you could still afford if your income dropped by half. 2, a big enough emergency fund to cover your fixed expenses for months, not weeks. 3, a plan to use most of any windfall to buy assets that don't depend on you staying at the top. Investments, skills, or businesses that can survive a slower season. Hammer lost millions because he mistook a hot streak for a new normal. Your goal is the opposite. Assume the streak might fade and build a life that still works even if it does. If you want more real-world money autopsies like MC Hammer's and the lessons hiding inside them, hit subscribe. And in the comments, tell us this. If your income doubled tomorrow, what's one upgrade you'd still say no to, and why?